12 famous people who failed before they succeed. We're all familiar with the names. They've been repeated over and over. However, most people are unaware of how they failed before succeeding. Personal struggles are not taken into account in the general consensus of success in the arts, entertainment, or business. We only see the personification of that success through whatever medium we come across. While you work day in and day out to achieve your goals, remember this: if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Although Frederick Douglass said it more than 150 years ago, it's a theme that has existed since the beginning of time. Organisms, both large and small, have always struggled for survival and progress in all aspects of life. Here's a list of 12 famous people who failed before succeeding. These are people who persevered in the face of adversity. They're people who stuck it out. They broke through current barriers, made breakthroughs, and their names have become synonymous with success in their fields of study and work. Number 1. Jim Carrey. We all know Jim Carrey as a zany comedian who has starred in some of the most successful comedies of all time, including The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura. However, not everyone is aware of Carrey's struggle. He came from a low-income family where his father struggled to find work. Because they were so poor, he had to drop out of high school at the age of 15 and work as a janitor to help support the family. He was put off stage during his first comic stand-up performance at Yuck Yucks in Toronto. Later, when he auditioned for the 1980-81 season of Saturday Night Live, he was unsuccessful. However, we are all aware of Carrey's subsequent success. In an interview with Oprah Winfrey, Carrey discusses how he used the law of attraction to write himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, then keeping the check in his wallet for 7 years until he received payment for his work in Dumb and Dumber. Number 2. Katy Perry. Most people are familiar with Katy Perry's name, but few are aware of her struggles to achieve the success she desired. Perry began her singing career at a young age, dropping out of high school after her freshman year in 1999 to pursue her dream. She began her career as a gospel singer, following in the footsteps of her parents, who were both born-again Christians. Katy Perry released her first gospel album with Red Hill Records in 2001, but it was a commercial flop. The record company ceased operations and went out of business after selling only 200 copies of her album. Perry then switched to popular music and relocated to Los Angeles to work with producer Glenn Ballard. She was signed to Island Def Jam in 2003, but the contract was not renewed. She signed with Columbia Records in 2004 with the intention of becoming the lead vocalist in a band called The Matrix. However, when Columbia Records shelved the project at about 80% completion, the deal fell through as well. You'd think Perry would have given up after being dropped from 3 labels. She had not. She worked odd jobs and did backup vocals while pursuing her career until she was signed to the newly formed Capitol Music Group in 2006. It was there that she wrote her first big hit single, I Kissed a Girl, which launched her career. Number 3. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah had a difficult childhood. Her beginnings were far from glamorous as the daughter of a teenage low-income mother. Oprah recalls that not only were her living conditions difficult in her early years, but she was also sexually abused by her cousin, uncle, and a family friend. Beginning at the age of 9, Oprah became pregnant at the age of 14, but her son died shortly after birth. Oprah was sent to live with her father, Vernon, in Tennessee, when she was 14 years old. He assisted her in focusing on her studies, and she was awarded a full scholarship to Tennessee State University, where she will major in communications. Winfrey interned at a local radio station during high school and her first 2 years of college, laying the groundwork for a career in media. Even after Oprah was hired as a news anchor on a local television station, things didn't go smoothly. The producer fired her because she was unfit for television, and she went on to work for another Baltimore station. She eventually became the host of People Are Talking, a local talk show. Later, in 1983, Winfrey moved to Chicago to host a low-rated talk show called AM Chicago on a local station. The show went from being last in the ratings to being higher than Donahue, which was the top show at the time. As a result, the show was renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show and became nationally syndicated. Number 4. Jay-Z. Jay-Z has had a knack for rhythm since he was a child. His meteoric rise to fame, however, did not happen overnight. Along the way to ultimate success, he encountered several obstacles. For example, when Jay-Z tried unsuccessfully to sign a record deal in 1995, no label would sign him. It led him to form his own record label, Rockefeller Records, with partners Damon Dash and Kareem Biggs. Jay-Z worked tirelessly to secure a distribution deal for his first album's release after being rejected by so many labels and eventually founding his own record label. After successfully negotiating a contract with Priority, he released his debut album, Reasonable Doubt, which went on to achieve platinum status. Jay-Z has had a lot of setbacks along the way. Those failures didn't just happen at the start of his career, but they do highlight the enormous amount of resistance he had to overcome in order to succeed. Jay-Z was also charged with stabbing someone at a record release party when he was in the prime of his career. He was tried and found not guilty, but later pleaded to a lesser criminal misdemeanor and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. Given that Jay's roots are in the Brooklyn housing projects and that he grew up in extreme poverty, he has had many setbacks in his life. He never gave up, though. He pushed through no matter what happened to him, no matter what setbacks he encountered, maturing as a person and becoming a better person. Number 5. J.K. Rowling. Rowling is one of our generation's most inspiring success stories. Many people only know her as the author of the Harry Potter series. Most people are unaware of her struggles previous to becoming famous. Rowling's life was far from idyllic. She battled mightily. Rowling came up with the concept for Harry Potter in 1990. She claimed that the concept occurred to her completely formed one day on a train from Manchester to London. She started writing quickly. Her mother, on the other hand, died later that year following 10 years of difficulties from multiple sclerosis. She relocated to Portugal to teach English in 1992 and met, married, and had a daughter there. Her marriage fell up in 1993, and she relocated to Edinburgh, Scotland, to be closer to her sister. She had 3 chapters of Harry Potter in her bag at the moment. At the moment, Rowling felt herself as a failure. She was unemployed, divorced, broke, and had a dependent child. She struggled with depression and ultimately applied for government-assisted assistance. It was a trying moment in her life, but she persevered despite the setbacks. The Harry Potter script was rejected by all 12 major publishers in 1995. However, it was a year later that Bloomsbury, a small publishing business, accepted it and offered a very little £1,500 advance. Only 1,000 copies of the book were printed in 1997, with 500 copies going to libraries. The book received the Nestlé Smarties Book Prize and the British Book Award for Children's Book of the Year in 1997 and 1998, respectively. Rowling's life became a roller coaster after that. Rowling is the most successful female novelist in the United Kingdom, with more than 400 million copies sold. Number 6. Stephen King. Stephen King is known for a number of highly praised books, the most of which had been adapted into films. Stephen King's debut novel, Carrey, was, on the other hand, rejected 30 times before being published. Not only that, but King tossed the manuscript away, only to have it found later by his wife, who fervently believed in his ambition of being a published novelist. However, King's early years were not without their flaws. His family struggled to make ends meet as a youngster, and he supplemented his income as an English teacher by selling short tales to publications. King has written more than 50 books and has sold more than 350 million copies of his work. Consider what King's life would have been like if he had given up. It's hard to believe that such a successful author was previously repeatedly rejected. King recalls submitting short tales to publications starting at the age of 16 and hanging the rejection slips on a nail until the slips became so heavy that he had to switch to a spike. Number 7. Bill Gates. Bill Gates was a commercial failure before founding Microsoft. Bill Gates' upper-middle-class upbringing, which has made him one of the world's wealthiest individuals, stands in sharp contrast to some of the other successful failures who did not have well-off parents. Bill Gates, on the other hand, did not rely on his family. His commercial skills was unrivaled. His first venture, however, was a flop. Gates, Paul Gilbert, and Paul Allen collaborated on Trafo Data. The company's purpose was to provide reports for highway engineers using raw traffic data. By analyzing raw traffic data to produce revenue, the firm was able to achieve some success. However, when they tried to submit the data to a Seattle County traffic official, the system they constructed to handle it failed. Nonetheless, this venture aided Gates and his Microsoft colleague Paul Allen in achieving tremendous success. Despite the fact that Gates' initial firm failed, he never stopped trying. He didn't want to give up because the idea of business piqued his interest. He was able to put together a corporation that completely changed the personal computing industry, and we all know how well it worked out for him. Number 8. Henry Ford. Many people are familiar with Henry Ford because of the Ford Motor Company, which is one of the most successful automobile firms in history. What they don't realize is that Ford failed twice before successfully starting the current form of his firm, both times resulting in bankruptcy. Ford has experienced failure before, but he has never given up. Yet, when we think of Ford, we don't think about his failure since he only had to succeed once. However, at the age of 36, Ford founded his first firm, the Detroit Automobile Company. With the help of William H. Murphy, a well-known timber magnate, that business went out of business. In 1901, he tried again, forming the Henry Ford Company, which he eventually left with the rights to his name. Later, the corporation was called Cadillac Automobile Company. Ford's third attempt, with the Ford Motor Company, was the one that hit the proverbial nail on the head. We all know what happens after that. Ford changed the automotive business by inventing not just the Model T and the production line, but also the idea and concept of a car in every home. Driving became a thing, and Ford's Model D went on to sell more than 17 million cars. Number 9. Colonel Sanders. His white suit and bow tie have become synonymous with him. Kentucky Fried Chicken was founded by Colonel Sanders, KFC. Sanders, on the other hand, had a rough start in life. He didn't start pitching his chicken recipe to restaurants until he was 62 years old, with a $105 Social Security check in hand. Despite 1,009 people telling him he was insane, he persisted. Sanders worked as a firefighter, tire salesman, insurance salesman, and cook, among other things. Between 1939 and 1940, he developed his secret chicken recipe after figuring out how to pressure fry chicken at a faster and more consistent rate. When that happened, he was 50 years old. However, he didn't hit the road and try to market his franchise model chicken business until 1952. The first business he landed was in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it was the birthplace of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Within a year, the restaurant's sales had quadrupled, with the Colonel's Chicken accounting for 75% of the total. He could never have guessed how quickly the firm developed and expanded. Sanders sold the firm for $2 million to a group of investors led by Jack C. Massey and John E. Brown Jr. in 1964. When he was 74 years old, he kept the rights to the Canadian franchisees and continued to work for the firm as a salaried goodwill ambassador. However, this simply goes to show that you can do amazing things no matter how old you are or how much money you have. 10. Thomas Edison. We've all heard of the name. This legendary American is said to have tried 10,000 times to create a commercially viable electric light bulb but never gave up. After almost 9,000 fruitless efforts, Edison simply answered, "Why would I feel like a failure?" When asked by a newspaper reporter whether he felt like a failure and if he should give up, "Why would I ever surrender? I now know over 9,000 different ways an electric light bulb won't function. I'm on the verge of achieving success." This is the same individual who was told he was too dumb to learn anything by his professors and was dismissed from his first 2 jobs for not being productive enough. He is claimed to have credited his early success to his mother, who took him out of school and began teaching him herself. He didn't want to fail his mother because of how much she trusted in him. His early interest in chemical experiments and mechanical engineering prepared the path for an incredibly promising future. GE, his business, is still one of the world's largest publicly listed corporations, constantly innovating across practically every industry. 11. Walt Disney. The guy who has influenced future generations with his cartoon masterpieces was previously thought to be a failure. The editor of the Kansas City Star dismissed Disney in 1919 because he lacked creativity and had no decent ideas. But the man who gave us Mickey Mouse and a host of other characters didn't stop failing there. When Disney bought Laugh-O-Gram, an animation firm, his first commercial venture ended in bankruptcy. The firm was purchased because Disney's cartoon productions had become famous in the Kansas City region at the time. However, he was unable to handle money when he hired paid personnel, and the company became significantly in debt. He then declared bankruptcy and relocated to Hollywood, California. Disney's early setbacks did not deter him from pursuing his dreams. Disney's failures, like everyone else's, were a blow to the ego. Anyone who has experienced the agony of failure and bankruptcy understands how this feels. It did, however, provide the groundwork for a successful career. All of his previous failures helped prepare the road for the Walt Disney Company when it was founded. Number 12. Sir James Dyson. The Dyson vacuum cleaner is regarded worldwide as the vacuum cleaner that never loses suction. However, the concept for it was conceived many years ago. When Dyson was in his early 30s, he was upset with his Hoover vacuum's loss of suction and came up with the idea. The disposable bag replacement business for vacuums was worth roughly £100 million per year at the time. His great idea was to produce the world's first bagless vacuum cleaner using the technique of cyclonic separation. Dyson had to try 5,126 times before getting it perfect. When he did, at the age of 36, he encountered even greater opposition when no UK distributor would take on the groundbreaking product. Nobody wanted to go against the grain. So, in 1983, Dyson introduced a bright pink version of his vacuum cleaner to the Japanese market. It won an industrial prize in Japan, and 3 years after its debut, he received his first US patent for it in 1986. However, because manufacturers were still unwilling to embark on the project, Dyson founded his own firm to promote the device in 1993. At the age of 46, Dyson is now worth over £3 billion as a result of his reluctance to give up. He toiled through failures, sorrows, and regrets, but he never gave up. Thanks for watching The Top.